Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic, putting it on the record. Well, my human meme friend, there was a time not too long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, when your word was your bond. What you promised happened. When a promise was made to you, it was kept. And if you didn't feel like making a verbal promise, you could just silently offer your handshake in agreement. And that was enough, skin on skin, palm on palm. Because if the other person took your hand and y'all shook on it, the deal was done. There was no going back, no do-overs, no mulligans. You could not change your mind. And you were bonded by your circle and by your moral duty. That was the guarantee that everything that needed to happen was going to happen. Well, that brings us to today. And what about promises and handshakes? Do they still matter? Well, I'm not so sure. Probably not so much. Today, it seems that just keeping your word is out of favor. What you say doesn't matter, only what you do. And that's fair enough, I suppose. But I do miss the trust of a promise made, or a handshake given, or even an offered smile. To seal the deal, to make a date, to bond a friendship. Nope. Nevermore. It's all paper now. Contracts and legalese and back doors and loopholes you can exploit to get out of whatever you previously agreed to promise to do. And that basic breach of common human trust is concerning. If you can't believe what someone tells you, if you can't trust what someone else agrees to do, then what happens? An old lawyer friend of mine in New York used to love to tell me and all of his clients many years ago, 30 years ago. Oh, and that lawyer was originally from Ohio, and I was originally from Nebraska, so that lawyer knew better than to say this to me, but he did anyway, often. And yes, he would say this to everyone upon signing the contract.
Remember, David, remember, a deal is a deal.
And I'd tell him right away, I already know that. Tell the other party signing the contract. A deal is a deal. Well, now, today, that plain spoken truth, a deal is lost and damaged. Yes, a deal is done, dead and gone. In the old days, the community, the society, would guarantee compliance and gather together to punish the person for not keeping their word, for breaking down their part of the deal. If you broke your word back then, if you could not be trusted, well, you were out. You were ostracized. Nobody in town would talk to you. Nobody would make a deal with you. Yes, back then you were pretty much canceled by your community. And you were canceled because you had proven you were not worthy of their trust. And back then, that sort of cancel culture was important because it worked. It was a guarantee. It staved behavior that was moral, appropriate, and necessary. Today, in a global world, and in the midst of social media madness, and a newer, more ridiculous form of cancel culture, you can promise whatever you like and never be held to account for it. And why is that? Well, because nobody really cares. You get hurt. You are aggrieved. You are cheated. Nobody cares. If it didn't happen to them, they don't care. Better you than me. And for some reason, changing your mind now has the same level of gravitas as actually doing what you'd say you do and then doing it. Even though you didn't ever do anything, and you have no intention of ever doing anything. When did that change? How did that happen? When did the broken promise become just as valued as a promise kept? Well, my human meme friend, I'm not exactly sure about the when or the how, because I don't promise things I can't or won't do. And I guess that makes me ripe for the taking. And yes, I believe in shaking hands to seal deals. And yes, I've been burned in the past by people who took my hand and lied and stole and who then thought they were getting one over on me. So it seems the answer to all of that today is to go paper. Write everything down. Memorialize in text. Preserve all conversations in email. I don't prefer SMS or a conversation over the phone. SMS and phone conversations can all be faked and forged, and so can email to a certain extent. But at least email offers some sort of backward trackable provenance that can be verified by a third party with travel and delivery headers. Because in trying to memorialize, write it down, you're trying to make an attempt to seal a deal on the record. A deal is a deal, right? And yes, it's too bad we have to resort to that sort of documentary threat to get anything to happen today in the real world. I do think the loss of a promise has to do with the values one is brought up with and supported as a child. If a parent teaches a child that anything goes, and that to lie and cheat and steal and play dirty is the way of the world, well then can we really blame the adult child for the deep penetration of betrayal the parent taught the unwitting and once moral soul? So I warn you to be careful and aware. If there is any misunderstanding or disagreement in a deal you try to make, be prepared, my friend, to hear over and over again,
I never said that. I never agreed to that.
And that, my human meme friend, that is what lawsuits are made of. That's why the record of what really happened must always be demanded and required to be preserved to avoid any sort of disremembering of a promise unkept. And all of this indescribably and indelibly brings us back around to the Trump impeachment and how some thought the second impeachment was just one too many. But what Trump did to this nation needed to be put on the record. His behavior needed to be documented and embedded for review 50 years from now. Today doesn't matter. What's happened, happened. Our present moments are already sealed. A deal is done. But we need to know, as a nation, that the life of a lie, the big lie, a lie that somehow tries to pretend virally to be a fact when it is not even real or close to being the truth. How does this happen? A broken word, a broken family, a broken man. Broken people tend to break other things, and they are never in danger of actually being healed themselves, because they enjoy too much the pity of their own shattering. To those folks, a promise is just another word for lie. And we, the others, the other side, the handshakers, and we, the promisers, need to learn to better identify those people in the wild. And we need to remember them and share what we know about them, and then fence them off from doing any deeper damage to our society than that they have already done. And I know there are still a lot of really great people around who will force a promise and who will enforce a contract without going to court or making a threat. But that's hard to do with strangers who don't care about anything. The eternal grifter only survives because of misplaced trust in those of us who want to believe in goodness and fairness. And that means the rest of us, the unholy marks in this game of rip-off, well, we need to toughen up a little bit. We need to realize the world is creepier and crueler than we could ever imagine. And sometimes, my human meme friend, the devil we don't know is actually much more dangerous than the devil we think we do know. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.